The weary traveler draws close to the end of the path.
We have never had it so good.
All of this just works.
We are selling tea to China.
You did not have to redeem this, ma'am.
Out with them, forget about them.
Your broadcast is very biased. You've written a lot of ridiculous articles, so I would encourage you to be more journalistic and have more integrity.
Socialism is when the government does stuff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Longhouse, the weekly or bi-weekly, I guess, every time show for the sensible centrist. I'm having a week. It's been, time flies really fast, and I got a bit peeved, Bloody Path. I got a bit peeved a couple of hours ago when I had gotten a hold of a cider that I wanted to enjoy, and I drank, a sip of it, and it tasted horrible. And I looked at it, and it was a light cider, which I don't mind in theory, but what that means is that instead of a cider where you have fermented sugars, they have removed some of the sugars and replaced sort of the sweetening to replace the taste of the sweetness instead of just creating an incredibly dry cider, which I also enjoy. They'd put a bunch of like artificial sweeteners. So there was like aspartame in my cider in a product that naturally generates sugar. Now, of course, I was told, and I do know that, in order to preserve cider, they sometimes add some type of sort of like artificial sweetening, or usually like a kind of fructose, because they have to like kill off the yeast or something. But it's not the same thing. Like this was like, oh, we made the cider, too dry and too bitter. We have to add back flavor by putting a bunch of artificial sweeteners in it, and now it tastes like ass. So yeah, I had a bit of a moment.
It's cider that tastes like medicine. Basically, I had some Tylenol for my autism and some ibuprofen that probably tasted sweeter than your cider, with about the same effect if you're taking a light version of it. There's one of my colleagues who told me the story about how so many of these candy and ice cream flavors are all sort of like derived from medical products, essentially. And after that, I just couldn't get that idea out of my head, and I just kept like
famous one that vanilla is like something that they extract from like the actual like anus of a beaver or something.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. But the ideas of these, quote unquote fake tastes like blue raspberry, or the stuff that is it's not cranberry, but say like cherry taste, for example, in candy. This is some like medical extract thing that they've made, and I just kept thinking about how like so much of the diet soda that I drink, it tastes medical in a sense. It was a bitter association, I guess. I need a positive reframing and psychological affirmation to get through this. But yeah, other than that, my autumn is actually pretty sweet. I think it's aside from the extreme weather, this has been it's a great time of the year, I think, to be an adult. Yeah. Very few holidays and BS that you have to keep up with, so you can just work and not be too disturbed. Put the kids in daycare. Yeah,
we're deep in the productive season, as it were, which is nice. It is. I'm enjoying the days I have off with baby walrus, and she's also staying a day each week with like grandparents, alternating, my parents and the in-laws, which both they and she finds a lot of fun, which is that's very great. I really enjoy seeing her face light up when like either one of the grandparents walk in the door, right? That's a special kind of joy.
Is that I don't know who said that, if it was like Radfem Hitler or something. It's like the man's dream to just have grandparents watch your kid all day.
I mean, it is to a certain
Yeah.
extent, right? It's nice to be able to work on some side projects or get some stuff done, but yeah, I do enjoy. I probably would have had a harder time with it if I would, because a lot of parents, what they do is they get like a full-time parental leave for the man. And that would probably have been maybe the 1-year-old is still very much in sort of like mom mode, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know the generational composition of your family, but I can just tell you that because me and my wife have now relatively old parents, and that
Right.
becomes a challenge. Like, so that's another reason to have kids early, even though there are reasons not to. But aside from the autism,
We actually found out.
it's a lot easier to get your grandparents or your parents to watch your kids if they're younger. I can just tell you that right now, because when they start having, when they have to have their driver's license taken away from them, it's actually quite difficult for them to do stuff with your kids without supervision. So
yeah, that's rougher. I mean, we almost have the opposite problem, right? We have to be like, no, you can't. It's our turn with the baby now. And there's actually, we did the math. The gap between me and baby walrus is literally the same amount of years as it is between me and my dad and my grandma, right? So it's 30 or 31 years or something, right? And it's literally the same age gap all the way. So our in-laws and my parents are all, either in their late 50s or mid 60s, so they still have a lot of aging happens between, let's say like 65 and 75, right?
yes, that's kind of my point. It's when you get to, there's like 50 to 60 and 60 to 70, that's rough. I mean, of course, you can stay in shape. You have some people who are quite remarkable in that way, good longevity. But I think for most people, unless you're some kind of walking pharmacy, like an American politician or something, then they're going to be fading quite fast. Between 60 and 70, in my experience, it's actually quite painful to see.
So for this week's Longhouse, I called the episode Grab Bag because that's essentially what it is. We have some follow-up, some slop, some kind of new things, and the ever-present Twitter bookmarks placed on the wheel for your entertainment tonight. And I think without any further ado, we'll just get the show on the road. Let's see here. Bring up the wheel of slop. Here we go. Oh, I'm going to have to hide this. Okay. Let's see here. Someone in the chat before the stream started said, we're just going to get this going before we run the wheel. Are Norwegians the least gay Europeans? I can't think of any European nation with fewer gay stereotypes. Maybe Irish. They're more known for bestiality. Well, I don't know what you mean by gay stereotypes. Like, I mean, you'll have to elaborate, I think.
I guess it's a nice icebreaker. So gay stereotypes, I guess, like you have certain ideas of like flamboyant Europeans, right? who
Sure.
are odd, like the like German obnoxious party people or
Oh yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
androgynous people
Like
and stuff like
Berlin
that.
is very
So
gay. Yeah.
um,
I mean, the
and
Swedes. If we go to like the races of Sweden graphic, of course the you could interpret the Fenno Swedes who run the country as being, you know, quote unquote gay. I would say they're more like cosmopolitan, you know, techno managerialist, right? And you get that, you certainly get that type in Norway as well, with you know, no exception, right? I don't know. I'm starting to think like what gay stereotypes are there about other
do
Europeans? It's very
elaborate.
hard for like a European to self-assess on that, because we just look at it as like a difference between me and a French person. It's not that the French person is gay, right? It's just that they're being weird, right?
Well, yeah, throw us some gay stereotypes in the comments. You know, I
Gay
started thinking
European
about
stereotypes. Yeah.
I started thinking about like the Sacha Baron Cohen movie Bruno, right, where he's like he's supposed to be from Vienna or something. It's sort of satirizing because like fashion is one of the things that Europe is known for. If you go outside of Europe, right, then you know, if you live in it, then it's like cool. But you're from the people looking in from the outside, it's like not a lot of things that are actually that interesting. So there's like going on vacations, buying like
that's very gay.
luxury, you know, wines and stuff, and then there's like fashion, right? Isn't that the joke? If you look at you know, the top 10 Forbes richest people in the world, it's like, you know, 7 guys from the United States who own tech businesses and AI companies. And there's like one European guy that makes handbags. I mean, I don't even. It's not even a joke. I think that's like what it looked like last time I checked. But if there's anything like Europe is sort of known for, then it will say like French fashion, you know, German Franco. Yeah, I guess gay if you have no better term for it. This sort of like flamboyant,
Again, it's
strange behavior.
I feel like it's a very American perspective to say that, you know, having a properly cut suit and enjoying wine is gay, right?
Slim fits are extremely gay. Yeah, I guess so. You should look like a garbage bin. Like
you had that. You were talking
2,000
about.
liter.
I looked that up on your profile. Of this absolute unit and this like, it's the American like clown suit cut that it does something with like your hips. It's very strange. Here it is. Sorry, the wheel will have to wait.
Well,
we found some authentic homegrown slop. Yeah.
See these.
This guy here, this unit. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
first of all, I would say the shirt here, like the collar here, is a bit tight, right? He's pushing it, right? But there's something about the jacket here that it's too wide in the top, too narrow in the middle, and then it sort of balloons out. Maybe that's just his body type, but it gives him hips, right? It's very strange.
Yes. I mean, this is like a general problem, I think, in the United States, is everybody has suits if you're going to be in politics or business or something, but a suit is a suit.
They don't have
That's kind of their problem, is that, you know, if you go to the thrift store and they just buy a suit off the rack that was made for some guy who's like 400 pounds, and then you just put that on no matter what body type you have. See, I mean, there's so many. I wish I had these images collected of American politicians.
Said lesbian haircut. You're not wrong.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. But yeah, they always end up looking like some kid who stole their dad's suit or something and walked around in it, except like they're actual adults wearing it. So it's I don't know what it is. You just see it all the time. It's like, okay, you need to have a suit to be respected, but what that suit looks like is like, if it's a parachute or something, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. All right, let's get this going here. Spin the wheel. Oh, and we can go straight to the Twitter bookmarks. We're not escaping the slop quite yet. We might do a double feature. We're going to start with this one just because it's funny. Oh, we're not going to remove Twitter bookmarks. I'm going to have to fix that. Twitter bookmarks is going to be an ever-present threat on the Wheel of Slop. Gerald of Rivia says, I love a spinny wheel. That's great. We have to. I'm going to put Subway Surfers down in the bottom right corner as well when we get this really going. I'm not sure if this is edited. What's this guy's name again? Grant something.
The
right?
Grant Cardone.
Cardone, yeah.
It's like this real estate course.
You know, someone's put a microphone in front of his face again, unfortunately, and this is what came out.
400 grand is like a no-brainer. That's how you make 400 grand. You put it in your calculator and say, I make 400 grand. And I divide it by 365. That means I need to make $1,095. If you've ever made $1,095.11, you can make 400 grand because I just showed you how easy it is. 400.
So there you go. just do it. Now, I think
I
what
feel
he's
motivated.
actually trying to get at here is, I mean, to steel man him a little bit. I think what he's getting at is that 400 grand a year is $1,000 a day, right? So it's sort of like easier to have your mindset of how do I make $1,000 a day, but yeah, it's just a very, very stupid way of putting it.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can play around with numbers and stats.
Exactly,
anyway,
right.
Like, well, it sounds less if I cut it into like 10.
Yeah, it's like, okay, but how do you make $1,000 a day? That's the real challenge, right? How are you going to get to that?
Yeah,
because
every
that's a
day
lot
as
of
well.
money to make a day, right?
Yeah, and not just in one day. You make it every day.
Yeah,
whole
even
year.
on weekends, right? Yeah. So, and we'll lead up with a second one. I mean, this is an older one that I saved from you. I like this one. There was this. Let me go to the original one. So I have no idea who these people are, but Dogecoin Empire says that as a Russian, I want Russia and America to be friends. And then, you know, I've been sort of catching some stuff from your, you know, exploration into the bot network, as it were. The most sort of like I don't think you could make an account more sort of like captured American Russophile thing, right? Says, you know, Mary Tiles from Texas says, as an American, I want Russia and America to be friends. And she's holding up tiles that, you know, more or less becomes the Russian flag. She has a cap on her that says learn a trade, which so it's kind of like the it's just the icing on the top. As you put it, like Beth, Mary Tiles from Texas, she promotes common sense, learning a trade, family values, and normalizing relations with Russia, ending all sanctions, ceasing all military aid to Ukraine, recognizing Crimea, and defunding NATO. Yeehaw. That is
Well,
as any true American patriot.
yeah, they built up. I don't know what you call that technique, where it's like this sort of Trojan horse where you have to sort of build up a profile so you can get to the sale. You know, like you invite people for these lunches or something, and the entire point is to sell a timeshare. So, but you have to like massage people a little bit before you get into the actual, you know, sales pitch. But it wasn't very long. She was just had this like blonde bimbo doing, you know, learn a trade, you know, quit college, learn a trade, whatever, believe in Jesus, and then we get to the real stuff, like the real reason this account exists, to promote.
Why are we here? Yeah.
Friendly relations with Russia. I mean, it was funny. I don't know if people caught this, but like the chief of product on Twitter X, Nikita Beer, they recently did a purge. It was like sorely requested. I don't know what took them so long, but he says he suspended like 1.7 million bots, right? And it's stuff like this, you know, the people who have Christian loving father, you know, carpenter, learn a trade, I love my country,
American flag,
Texas patriot, you know, like that's the most common account that they removed.
And you called this like a year ago. I saw you sent me an old tweet of yours, like from like 2024 or something, where you're like, why are everyone with this kind of bio, retards?
Well, yeah, it
So
seems it's just really hard to believe that you get these sort of reply guys that just show up in every single thread and they post like 10,000 tweets per day or
well,
something.
there's
It's just
nothing
all
there's
replies.
nothing
Yeah.
more I love when I come home from my 14-hour work day of laying tile than to sit on Twitter and reply to some random guy in Europe, right? About foreign
Yeah.
relations with Russia.
While they're installing HVAC and listening to Tucker Carlson, they're like tweeting in my
Yeah.
threads or something. It's they have a lot of time,
Nordan
but
on,
apparently they're
Sorry, Nordan
Yes.
on coming in strong with the wood. I do agree.
That's the point. That's the reason she looks like that. It's that part was never in dispute.
All right, that's enough Twitter bookmarks, at least for now. Let's get back to the wheel here, and maybe we can get some actual news going. Please, no Twitter. No, I'm going to spin again. We just did it. We can't do Twitter bookmarks twice in a row. I am disrespecting the wheel, and the chat is going to be in an uproar. Oh no, this is a bit stupid as well. But sure, we'll do it. This is going to be very specifically like Norway focused. So we're going to have to do some live translations. I apologize for our international audience. Here we go. Because recently, of course, Norway and Israel had their soccer match. And I mean, Norway ended up winning quite handedly. We have the orc from the north on our national team, putting the ball in the box, as it were. And before this guy, made a bit of a stunt out of putting on the Israeli, I don't want to say uniform, but the suit, right? The soccer uniform, and declaring that he would be, buying a ticket with the supporters from Israel. So he was going to stand with them instead of, in the Norwegian corner, or just, in general at the stadium, because of course in soccer they usually, designate, for Americans, they designate an area for the away team where the supporters can stand, right? And so I'm just going to play this in the background, and he's part of we've talked about this before, where there's these like hardcore, Judeo-Christians in Norway who are like all in, for some strange reason, all in on the whole, like, we're gonna partner with the Jews, and that's how you get into heaven, something Israel, right? And all that. So he's saying that he's being asked, why do you want to support Israel? And he says, well, because Israel is close to my heart, and it's been for many years. I think a lot of things are being very sort of twisted in our society today, and Israel is getting, undeserved hate. I mean, I think everyone, as we talked about before, it's my view that, the default in Norway is to be sort of slightly pro-Palestine, right? But of course, over the past couple of years, I think Israel has been getting a deserved amount of hate for their actions. But that's just my opinion. And he's saying that, well, when they come to us as visitors, right, I want to support them and stand side by side with them in their fight. And he says, yeah, I'm going to be standing with the away team. So, it's
well, yeah, I do have. I keep some of those people in my Facebook feed just to see what they're up to, and it's okay. I mean, I get it. It's just like for every day that passes, they just come across as crazier to me.
Right? They're sort of like the world is moving away from them, not the other way around, right?
The more interesting parts is like the these sort of wannabe right-wing populists in the Norwegian alt media sphere that there's a bit more cognitive dissonance there because they're a lot more driven by contrarian instinct and trolling than I guess these more sincere Bible thumpers. So you see them on social media taking like this kind of pro-Trump stance and a pro-Israel stance, but they end up clashing with people constantly because the wave is going in the direction of anti-Israel, pro-Palestine. So it's taking supporting Israel to own the libs is kind of it is a difficult position to take at this point.
I don't think this guy is even like I know you're talking about the Twitter people, but this guy doesn't even seem like he's doing it to own the libs, right? He's just this guy's just a true believer.
Yeah, no, they exist. They absolutely exist. It's just it's not easy. I mean, he is not one of those guys getting like $7,000, to do this stuff. Like they are genuine.
Well, maybe now he's been noticed by Bibi, and the checks will start clearing. Now that he's shown that he's Norway's strongest Israeli soldier.
Yeah. Well, they're a stiff competition, even though they're mostly the masters age bracket.
Sure. But we're all out here grifting, right? That's all. Speaking of Peter Thiel, if you're listening to this, hit me up. I can do coding if you need. I'm not good with AI, so you're gonna have to find someone else for that. Sorry. All right. Grenades 2. Electric Boogaloo. So, I guess 2 weeks ago when we did Longhouse, was that when we covered the grenade incident?
Yeah, we did. If we had done it last week, we could have done the follow-up, but
we could have done the follow-up.
There's still time.
There's been a follow-up to the follow-up, right? Because it's sort of come to light that one of the boys who did the grenade throwing against the nail salon was subject to domestic violence, and quite harsh domestic violence. And this is a bit of an aside in the whole story, but what sort of irked me a little bit was the judgment the parents received for this. I mean, if you sort of mistreated your kid to the point where they turn to crime, as is being implied by this, right? That this is a direct causal effect. The judgment they did receive, the sentence they did receive, I feel is not, reflecting. So both parents have now been convicted in the Oslo District Court, and the judgment hasn't been enforceable yet. According to the sentence, the boys should have been subjected to physical and mental violence for over a period of 5 years. Quote, in the court's view, there's no doubt that the regular violence described, although it was not in itself the most serious, forms a pattern that meant that the offender, as in the 13-year-old boy, lived under a regime characterized by continuous insecurity and fear of violence, writes the court. I'm not sure. Of course, a lot of details are being kept under wraps because this is a minor. But if this turns out to be, an immigration thing, we have flirted with this sort of stuff before when we've covered the idea of like cousin marriages and stuff like that. That there are a lot of immigrant families who have these like secret, basically, tribal courts going on, basically to enforce their own stuff, and it harms the kids a lot, right? So I'm not sure if this is playing a part here. For all I know, these are ethnically Norwegian boys.
Yeah, I doubt it for some reason. I mean, I don't know if you saw the debate. They did like this sort of debate show on this Norwegian state television about this. I didn't catch that. That was actually worth watching. They had a guy on that was like a specialist from Sweden in like looking at these networks. This is like the Foxtrot network, who are hiring or sort of grooming these kids to do these kind of assassinations. That was fascinating stuff. I mean, I talked about it last time, the kind of the incentive structure for how do you, I mean, if you're going to hire a hitman, the difficulties in terms of acquittal, payment. When you've paid the money, there's always an incentive to just fuck off and okay, you paid half of the money, I'm just going to leave. Or say if I only get the money after I kill the guy, then I can kill the guy and you can not give me the money because it's already done.
Yeah, it's always a risk. Yeah.
Right. So that's a bit of a problem. But I realized, like, with these kids, in the last article, they said like the kid was offered 30K NOx, right? Well, it turns out that they like it's the same incentive structure. They offer these kids like these petty sums. That's like big money if you're 12, but they never pay them. They just keep like offering them jobs until they stop taking them. And that's kind of how it works. Like they never actually pay it out. They just put out ads on TikTok and Telegram and stuff for these hits, and then they take these kids through these sort of steps. Like, I mean, just show up here on this location, and take this bag, and then you go to this hotel room where you can hang out or something, and then you get some more instructions, and then they move them to another place. Then like, okay, you get the gun, and maybe they give them some drugs and tell them just go and shoot this guy, and we'll give you the money at this location afterward. So it's like, this is like Hotline Miami or something. That's the references in my head. It's like that video game. If you played that by Devolver Studios,
seen the trailers.
That's like this top-down pixelated, stylized, ultra-violent game where it's, spoiler alert, but the plot of the first game is like you have this schizo in his apartment who's being manipulated by two of these guys from like a far-right American patriot cell who are trying to take out hits on the Russian mafia. Like, that's what they're trying to do. So they're like, they keep giving him calls, like telling him to go here and pick up the weapon and just kill people. And because he's just a little bit off in the head, he ends up just doing their dirty work for them. So it's kind of like that, but in real life. And that's why you get like some of these kids that are just showing up to, like throw grenades or with AK-47s shooting at nail salons, embassies, or whatever. And they're usually doped out of their head. They don't know what they're actually doing because they're just, well, it's kind of like the sunk cost thing where you get far enough into their funnel, in a sense. And then what usually happens is that they'll be apprehended and just put in juvenile prison, which is a lot more mild than actual jail. So,
and in theory, right, your handlers can at any point sort of just turn on you and turn you in or something, right? So
yes,
because they got all the dirt on you and you don't have any money. So
that's the problem. You don't have money. You don't really have anything. So it's just they might like make you take some photos to use in marketing for like their next the next ad or something. But it's quite cynical stuff. But if you're like it works on the right type of person. If you're like this, like say like this kid who's like, you say like you're an abused, brown kid from some shithole or something for like 5 years, and like, okay, you can make, 500K NOx from throwing a grenade in somewhere and get out of there. So like, yeah, there's some people who are just kind of programmed correctly that you can just make them do stuff like this and you give them the right steps. But yeah, those are not usually, the people who grew up on the west side in Oslo playing soccer or something with two parents and one sibling.
Exactly, yeah. Let's see here. The father's defenders is appointed. The mother says as well. Police believe the 13-year-old has been exploited by criminals and that he may have assumed missions to throw a grenade at a nail salon on Bislett as behalf of them. Another peer was on the spot, was also brought in, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. I want to get to the verdict. There was something about the verdict. Where was it? Did they skip it? I was reading. Did they change the article? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Here it is. My bad. The parents were sentenced to 309 and 304 hours of, was it like the community service, essentially? And they have to pay a redress compensation of 50,000 to the 13-year-old boy, so to their son. Which 300 hours, that's not a lot. Like, it's no jail time, it's nothing. And you've been, to some extent, right, mistreating your kid for 5 years. I don't like that. It feels too low. But of course I don't know the details of what the mistreatment is. But if it is enough to sort of like, drive your kid to do this stuff, I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah,
That's
these
all I
things
got.
are always tricky, but likely there are other kids involved as well. So that's usually a consideration, I think, if you have to put parents behind bars.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be more destabilizing. Who knows? I mean, at this point, the kid probably isn't going to go back to live with their parents anyway, right? So this would get you to lose custody, I think. All right, let's roll the wheel again. We're getting autism too. All right, very nice. So we slightly on purpose, slightly inadvertently, ended up talking about autism quite a bit. I guess that must have been the last stream as well, or 2 streams ago, I think. It's the one regarding the Tylenol, right?
Yes.
And some guy I'm saying some guy in Norway, but just following up on some of the things we talked about and some of the articles we read from Norway. Then we have an associate professor of social medicine and global health from the University of Oslo says that the autism epidemic is created by professionals and society. So I'm just going to read this, and you can stop me if new autism just dropped. Do Norwegian privacy laws conceal the names? Yes, of pretty much all offenders, really. You're not allowed. It's a weird thing where, like, if the police accuses someone, the press gets to write that they've been accused, but the press is not allowed, I think, to write that the person has been convicted or something like that. Do you have a clear overview of it like that?
No, I'll just do a quick search and get back to you on that.
Yeah. But yes, we have privacy laws that are actually quite strict about these things, which means that very often in cases you will not see like full names and images splattered across the news, even though everyone knows who we're talking about. Reactionary reading law says in the UK, the private ethnic courts are normal and form of a part of a legally recognized form of arbitration. Really? On the level of the courts, or just in sort of like private, like as in private arbitration? New autism just dropped. All right, I'm going to start reading. In a world of conspiracy thinking and vaccine skepticism, we cannot afford that professionals create unnecessary uncertainty as to why our diagnoses are increasing. Autism, or autism spectrum disorder, is a state defined by social interaction and recurring social interaction issues, recurring problems, and inflexible behavior. How many we diagnose has sharply increased in many countries, just like ADHD. In the United States, the incidence among 8-year-olds was quadruple from the year 2000 to 3.2%, and has quadrupled to 3.2% in 2022. And it also has increased in Norway. Of course, it is natural for people to ask why. But the answers then often become unclear. Quote, "We have a limited understanding of what has driven the increase in these diagnoses," reports the Public Health Institute. Quote, researchers have no secure explanation, writes psychologists Terje Falk-Itter and Agnes Wahlberg, and another examples in the Evening Post on October 5. The latter otherwise warns against dubious explanations and measures by U.S. new Health Minister of Health Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who will find the reasons for what he calls an autism epidemic that is spreading uncontrolled. But the autism epidemic is due, in all likelihood, and essentially nothing mysterious. Oh wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to find the original one here because it's getting a bit weird on the translation. The autism epidemic is probably caused and mainly mainly not something mystical, but rather something medical, meaning that there's more traits in people with medical terms that are being diagnosed and treated. It is a difference between an increased level of diagnosis and more people actually falling ill. So what he's saying is that, it's essentially just that we're looking for more autism, so we're finding more autism, I think is what he's getting at.
It seems to be a very broad spectre thing as well, right? As to who's actually included in that and not, because there are many people who are very high functioning who have this diagnosis and who refer to themselves as autistics, right? So it's it's a bit odd. Just as a side note, criminal procedure law in Norway basically says that if the person is under 18, then the jury and the courts keep their names private, and so does the media, right? So that's how it works. The only exception is
private all the way.
Yeah, it's private all the way. I mean, the accused can reveal it themselves if they want to, but otherwise it's a private. It's supposed to be kept private, both as a part of guidelines for media and as criminal procedure law.
Right. The United States has a new health policy. Before the U.S. election last year, Kennedy joined Donald Trump's movement, and this is how health populism movement, led by the former Democrat, fused with Make America Great Again, MAGA, and turned into MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. MAHA is nourishing a lot and partially understandable distrust of medicine, the pharmaceutical industry, and public health institutions. Which, again, in America, I can understand it. The movement involves a lot of good ideas, such as regulating the food industry and fighting obesity, but it also includes a lot of bad ideas, conspiracy theories, and vaccine skepticism. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy and the White House use increasing numbers. Are pointing to the increasing numbers for various diagnoses as evidence that the United States has not only had any major public health challenges, such as obesity, but that they pose a serious threat to American people and our way of life. Thus, the diagnoses justify more radical measures, such as interventions against public health institutions. One example of this is autism. A red thread in Kennedy's work is more or less well-founded fear that the toxins in the environment, including medicines and vaccines, is the cause of our health problems. At worst, autism numbers can be used to promote questionable research projects and advice on vital vaccines. It would be ironic, for increasing autism diagnostics is a wild medical development in the belief that diagnosis should help more. Let me double check that. An increased autism diagnostics is no, it's pretty good, well translated actually. It is important to understand that psychiatric diagnoses are not objective, that there are no clear boundaries between the sick and the sick, not the fresh, healthy, and that there are professionals who define which symptoms and traits should be considered autism, and thus how many are going to quote unquote have the condition. It is often pointed out that genes are important risk factors, but something is hereditary. But that something is hereditary does not mean that it's an illness. Autism was first described in 1943, but first defined as a diagnosis in psychiatric manuals in 1980, and then as a quite narrow definition. So it's no wonder that, quote unquote, no one had heard of autism when Kennedy and Trump were children in the 50s and the 60s, quote, back when health was great, or that less than 1 in 1,000 children had autism diagnosis at the start of the 80s, as the White House has highlighted. The problems we now call autism existed, but they had other names. So in 87 and 94, the diagnosis was expanded with new criteria. The diagnosis Asperger's syndrome as, quote, high-functioning versions of autism and unspecified pervasive development disorders became part of the autism umbrella. In 2013, autism was defined as one spectrum of more or less serious features that can in practice accommodate everything from a total lack of communication to Elon Musk. And a link to, Elon Musk talking about how he was diagnosed with Asperger's. The diagnosis could now also be made with, this means that the diagnosis could be made with other diagnoses, meaning that you could have multiple, or I guess the umbrella term for autism had expanded, I guess is what he's saying. As with ADHD, the professionals have also developed a thought that autism could inherit in ever-increasing ways, that new features of new groups can be called autism. For example, in girls or in adults, autism is different. The fact that several aspects of several people are defined as the fact that more aspects of people are being defined as medical is at the core of medicalization of issues. So he's writing this, and it doesn't quite come through in the English translation, but he is going a bit both ways here, saying that we might be over diagnosing a bit here, or like medicalizing a lot of things that that might not have been that important in the past, right? But I think where he'll land as we get to the bottom of the article is that we're not going to remove the diagnoses. We just need to be more clear about what is debilitating autism and what is not, right? But we'll see. After expanding the diagnosis, professionals, youth organizations, and other actors have spent great resources on raising more awareness of the diagnosis in the population in search for answers. This becomes more powerful with social media and diagnostic influencers. What is this like? Oh yeah, diagnostic influencers like TikTok, autism people, basically. The stigma decreases, and according to the neurodiversity movement, autism does not need to be seen as an illness, but, quote, natural human diversity. I mean, that's the problem with making the diagnosis so broad, is that at some point autism is an illness, right? We talked about it in that stream, is that we joke about like, oh yeah, we have the autism, but in general you don't want to have autism, right? In the same way you don't want to have schizophrenia, right? In the same way you don't want to have a collapsed lung, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. But yes, it's difficult to tell. It's sort of similar. It makes me think of like the trans stuff, where it's
Sure.
you get these statistics coming out, but it's like what is it, 20% of Gen Z is like trans something or whatever. And
That's
I mean,
not true.
that it's BS, right? It doesn't make any sense. It's like this kind of
But
trendy thing.
I mean, go back to, for that, I always go back to, Dr. Nima Parvini's real trans rate. And Norway actually is starting to have some numbers on that. And the people who are actually seem to be, real trans we're talking, a very small amount of people. Of course, the quote-unquote movement of gender fluidity, if we can call it that, like the umbrella stuff, yeah, that has grown, right?
Yeah, there's certainly the acceptance of it, or the idea of that as like a thing to do, has become more popular. But Just like real autists, real transgenders are quite hard to find. Actually,
Real autism has never been tried. Yeah.
yeah, but they're not mutually exclusive either. I mean, I've written a little bit about this, but there is a lot of overlap between autism and transgenderism.
Yep. When autism becomes a positive identity marker and even a quote unquote superpower, more people will look at getting a diagnosis as acceptable or even attractive. Diagnoses also come along with rights and resources because you get Gibbs. At the same time, an increasing number of professionals with autism who focus. Let me double check an increased number of professionals in the field of autism have focused on exploration, and those who and if you decide to go looking, you will find it. From the late 2000s, the American Children's Society recommended that clinicians screen, thus systematically search for autism even when the parents do not seek help themselves. So just adding autism to the look for this pile naturally means that there will be more cases of autism, and probably more cases of autism that are not necessarily something you would have defined as autism before. In Norway, we don't have this screening, but American diagnostic culture affects both Norwegian professionals and reach people through various channels, that regular people. It has become easier to get an investigation and diagnosis of autism. When I began writing this chronicle, I got an about autism investigation at Dr. Drop-In, which is like an app, right? You can like go on an app and get a doctor's appointment within 24 hours or something, right? So apparently he's writing on this and he's investigating this, and Facebook is serving him ads about like getting his autism checked at like one of these like clinic farms, essentially. That's kind of funny. It really is widely accepted that most of the increase is due to an expanded diagnosis and more of diagnoses. Falketer, Valberg, and the Public Health Institute are thus circling these explanations. Yet the headline becomes that, quote, "we don't know." It is understandable that the scientists want to make reservations, but their caution is slipping into effusion. There are always possible environmental factors and developments in certain groups to be further investigated, but there's something parodic, that's something that a measure the psychiatry started themselves has become a mystery that the people demand an explanation for. So what he's saying is that we should, well, in Norwegian you say calling a spade, like you speak true, right? Say that we're seeing more autism because we're looking for more autism, and at some point this is going to even out, because if you don't tell people what to what to believe, they're going to start looking and find their own narratives, right? And then you have a problem. That's essentially what he's saying. What do you think, Luddic Path?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, it's good that this viewpoint is getting out at least.
Yeah,
it seems to have been some changes in the what do you call it? Like some people call it the Overton window or whatever, but that you can actually go to a mainstream newspaper and just say that no, this is actually just over diagnostics. Because I feel like this was maybe if you go just back maybe 5 years ago, it's like this is just too sensitive to talk about. Like you can't accuse people of this kind of stuff that's invalidating or what do you call it? People talking about even like the trans genocide, the kind of ethnic cleansing of particular identities. I mean, at least it's on the table now that like maybe we overdid this stuff. Like
yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, I can see that. Nordon says, I saw a video of a psychologist who broke transgenders into 4 categories: true transgenders, transvestites, autogynophiliacs, and transtrenders. 100% of his male, quote, true trans patients had autism. Well, yeah, that's the thing too, right? the overlap between like autism and transgenderism is apparently a thing. And do you have that video somewhere, or was it just like randomly on Twitter? It would be interesting to watch. Okay, so we have two more things here. I don't know if I should roll for it or if we should just go into it. Let's do the lighter one, because this one was quite, the one we just did was a bit heavy. Here we go. So in Norway, there is an uptick in young Christians. I'm not sure if you've noticed anything, Path, but
Well, I don't know enough young people, unfortunately. I don't know how I would.
We're old unks now, isn't that the saying? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I work with software outside of Oslo. And that's kind of my life outside of my family. I don't know where I would even get to know young people anymore.
Fair
because
enough. Yeah,
if you work at like a software house that's not in one of these big cities, they just hire seniors.
Yeah, it's these old engineers.
Yeah, they can't afford young slop coders. So typically, like, it's like the really big companies who bring on the young guys who you can just afford to have them be non-productive for a couple of years. Sure. So that's why you see a lot of that in like the big cities, straight recruitment mail from the university to the companies and these businesses. But
yeah,
for
Norway is Lutheran. Yeah, Nicholas de Bari. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, so like if I worked in Oslo, I would probably be more exposed to young people. But currently, the way my life is structured, there's just like no place I can find them outside of the online kind of wackosphere, and I don't know who's even on there. Everybody's anonymous. I don't know who's bullshitting, who's actually serious, who's actually under 30 or whatever. So it's really difficult for me to try to sample this stuff. But
Sure.
What about you? I mean, do you have any window into the young mind?
Not a lot of the Christian youths. I do have a little bit. I have some friends, because I've told before, I live in like the Bible Belt of Norway, essentially. So the region is generally more Christian. So I have some friends, and through those people, I've met a couple of young Christian guys, but I can't say I hang out with them, right? It's just like, you've said hello, right? You have some acquaintances.
No board games, no Bible studies.
I don't do that. No,
I don't know. But
I
yeah,
have
it would be
attended
interesting.
Bible studies, but I have attended Christian conservative Bible studies, actually. So it's interesting.
But yeah, it's also difficult, I think, when there's too much of an age disparity to get people to talk openly about, say, their beliefs and these related things, because it is sensitive, right? And they be, sometimes at least I recognize that when you're young, you're kind of a little bit shy about, if you're revealing your power level or talking about your beliefs to people who are older. You either you don't want to be mocked, or you don't want to be looked at as a weirdo or something. So you keep it short. So it's I'll just have to take the commentary's word for it, because it's difficult. But let's see what the news article says.
I'm not sure why, if there's an increase, like a huge uptake, but we'll see. More young people become Christians, and then a quote from like an interview: "In an uncertain time, one start looking for something true to hold on to." The figure of enrollments in the Norwegian church is increasing greatly among the young. Researchers believe that many are inspired by the Christian conservative wave in the United States. Over 4 times as many Norwegian 20-year-olds have joined the Norwegian church last year as they did 10 years ago. At the same time, the bookstores report an increase in Bible sales. Quote, "When living in an uncertain time, you start looking for something true to hold on to." It's 20-year-old Christopher Shand.
So I get where they're coming from. I also had like a period when I was Christ curious or whatever. I think they
Yeah,
might
me
be
too. But it was
disappointed.
it was more in my like mid-teens.
Yeah,
I bounced off of it because, well, I live in you know, cult region, so there's a bunch of like small sects all over the place, and the one that snatched me up, you know, at some point I was like, no, I'm this, like they did, the way they acted was very strange and very like self-righteous, and they did a lot of weird shit, and then they started like chanting in tongues and all that, and I was out, right? You got this weird like evangelical stuff where it's like, you know, people are like trying to one up each other in like how much they love Jesus or something, and you know, making sure everyone reads the Bible all the time, and like I've been reading the Bible more than you have, and at that point it's like, well, the religion isn't like, it's just like a social club, and you guys are like henpecking, and I don't really want to be a part of this, right? If the deal is that I can talk to God in my own room, then I'm going to do that, I guess. um, I guess in a different timeline, I would have returned to the official state church, but I guess I never did.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be some room, I guess, to be a normie or a casual Christian, at least to an extent that, I mean, like, you don't believe in the stuff, but I mean, do you want to be a part of it? Because I've been close to that as well through family ties, these groups where, like you said, the one-upmanship, where they try to, you know, bear witness, talk about their spiritual experiences. It becomes like this, you know, who can invent the most outlandish spiritual story about their awakenings or whatever. And I mean, I know that some of them are sincere. It's just that there's this incentive that they create to just make up stuff.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're,
and I have met,
you
know, Christians later, of course, who are a lot more sensible, a lot smarter, you know, much more willing to entertain, you know, that I've had longer philosophical talks with. So it's not that they don't exist. It's just that, you know, these small sects have a tendency to sour the pot,
small sects, but it's I mean, it is the issue. It's kind of like, can you retain smarter people? And that's not the only thing that matters, right? I mean, you can have movements where, you know, that are low human capital or whatever, but at least for my own sake, if it's too silly, that it's really hard to stick it out. It's not motivating. If I was interested in Christianity, it's because I found somebody online who were philosophical. Let's say Jordan Peterson. That wasn't the case for me, but I think, you know, maybe for some people that would be an entry point.
Sure.
It's like you get some guy talking about the Bible who is intellectual and kind of displays some layers, some depth to this, some multifaceted aspects with the texts that make it interesting. And because you like the character, you also like the belief. That's kind of how it works, at least for me. You know, it's like certain talking heads that you like to listen to, and wherever they go, you sort of follow reluctantly. It's usually not the other way around. But if it's, you know, if all of the influencers just go complete wacko and it just becomes this kind of retarded, I mean, I think it's similar to, like you talked about, academic agent Nima Pravini, who's making this like against right-wing ideas video series.
Fantastic
recently,
series, by the way.
Sort
Very
of
interesting.
made the point where that it's now like it's not sensible centrist anymore. It's like sensible center left center leftist, because it's really hard to kind of find an audience for intellectual content on the right wing at this point. Which is I mean, I found it interesting to hear him say that, because and kind of just admit to that point, because I felt the same thing myself, in a sense, like exactly what space do you have for being an intellectual on what's currently the right wing? And this isn't like I'm saying that I don't have right wing sympathies or dispositions or feelings or whatever, because I have always had that. and I still do, but it's really hard to find anything on what's considered like the mainstream politically viable right that has any intellectual appeal where you can sell more kind of highbrow ideas. That just seems to be gone. It's become like this kind of concentration of these sort of schizo, more kind of lowbrow people. And if your brand is being an academic or something like that, it's you don't go to that market. You lose out to the carnival barkers. So it's kind of okay. I can't sell my ideas here. I don't have an audience. Essentially, I mean, you can try to paint this up, but I always felt like guys like, well, say like Nima Parvini or these people who are looking at right wing theory, trying to get more esoteric with books, literature, academic analysis and so forth. They just lose out to the cat turds and the Jack Posobiacs and all of that's the winning combo essentially. This kind of like loud slop stuff that's going on social media, and that it's carrying over to politics as well. Like the debate bros, the memers, just like the shit talk, the people who just contradict themselves every 3 minutes on social media. That's what's winning. That's what's getting the eyeballs. So I'm sorry for going on this long tangent, but I just kind of feel like it's a bit of the same thing with Christianity. On one side, you have these people who are like super duper nice, like this kind of Mormon light people, where they just want to be nice and play board games and do like charity stuff and like refugee charities. And then on the other hand, you have the snake handler, tongue talker guys.
Yeah.
And there was such a thing as like these kind of the intellectual Christian conservative right. I remember like my dad, he had like a membership in the local conservative party, and he brought me to an event once, and I talked to some guy who was a lawyer, who was also a theologian and stuff. Like you had some of these people who were believing Christians who were also PhDs and had reasonably sophisticated ideas about legal theory and implementing it and stuff. But like that stuff is just gone. You have these other remnants of these kind of like this sort of niceness people and the snake handler, screaming with your shirt off faith healers, but the middle of the road kind of like Christian center academic stuff, that's just like it's just not there anymore. Maybe it'll come back by popular demand, but currently if that doesn't exist, then I'm not in that camp.
The issue is, where else do you go then, right? It's like, oh, you go back to the center and talk about like climate change with
talk about the
WEF boys, right?
Abundance. I want to build 30-story blocks so I can fit more people. I can get down property prices. I mean, it's a bit of a joke, but I don't consider myself center left or anything like this, but I am interested in this kind of what you consider like centrist liberal analysis, like say like the sort of abundance Democrat stuff. Like, okay, how can you like build more housing, for example? I find that to be useful in a sense as a sort of political thing, or doing stat-based analysis with guys like Nate Silver or something. It's more stimulating. I think it's more useful than just talking about demons and imps.
Sure. Javier Olivia says, Dr. Parvini has no underlying moral code or belief system as far as I know. I still listen to him because he's highly intelligent and well-read, but doesn't seem to believe in anything. Well, I mean, I'm not accusing you, Javier, but I think a lot of people looking at his comment section for his recent Parvini against the right is excellent. And if you're mad at him for quote unquote turning, I think you made the mistake of hitching your moral code to some YouTuber, right? Like that's not on him. Unfortunately, that's the way the parasocial relationship works. So, so I mean, if you hadn't understood that, you know, the way he operates is incredibly fluid, let's put it like that, until this point, then, you know, you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. And if you're stuck in his comment sections, tweeting, like writing, that's the worst part, is like people are in his comment section and they're writing as if they're Indians online, right? They're like third world posting in his comment section about like, oh no, but we've been oppressed, it's the white man's turn now. Like, come on, like we have the best thing going in the universe. Let's try to keep it going, or at least try to like reform it into something useful, right? Instead of like slop posting ourselves, acting brown, essentially. I don't I don't have any other way of putting it,
Well,
because they're
I mean,
tweeting
I
like
will.
Indians who are like, oh no, we have been you know, oppressed by the English for so long, so now it's our revenge, writes the Indian, right? And his comment section is the exact same, just the opposite way, right? And I don't like that. I think we're better than that, and we are better than that. That's because and because we are better than that, everyone wants to come and live here, right? It's sort of like the proof, it proves itself.
Yeah,
Now,
but
if
I
you live in
mean,
the UK and the UK looks like it's fucked, then yeah, I'm sorry, but you know, I live in like a 90% white country, so for us, you know, a lot of these things are policy issues, not existential. Sorry, go
yeah, no,
ahead.
I mean, I see what Javier means, but you have to sort of think about this in a sort of when you're like an old head and you've been around for as long as I have, which is sort of just kind of sad to admit, but you see kind of how a lot of creators come in and how they sort of react to various things. And Academic Agents was doing more of these kind of centrist libertarian videos, right? That was more
That's where
focused
he
on
started. Yeah.
economics and you know, Mises, Hayek stuff in the beginning, and statistics, and like the right wing turn was very much in reaction to him like being booted from the university, his position, for dabbling too much into these kind of right wing ideas in the first place, and feeling that he had sort of been rejected from that, and then just continuing down that path. But to find kind of a new audience for his ideas. But then when it turns out like the right wing took another turn, where that's like there's no longer an audience there for any intellectual analysis, then it's like, okay, what's the point? You know, maybe this was just kind of a wrong direction.
Yeah, if they don't want to listen, then what's the point of me talking, right?
Yeah, I mean, because people are just motivated by different things. Some people maybe have like one core belief that they just hold to their entire life, but other people are just motivated by different things that are a bit more dynamic. Say, like they want to engage in, you know, intellectual dynamism in a sense, and research, and being able to, you know, read different things, not be censored too much, not be controlled by other people, and so they
But
move
again,
where they're sort
I
of
mean,
able
in
to do.
my head, that's, you know, how I always, like, he calls himself just a scholar. I know that, like, you know, it's a bit of a wink and a nod, but that's what he is, right? Why do you want him to be something else? And why do you sort of like hitch your wagon to it, right? I don't understand that. And I'm not accusing you, Javier Olivia. It was just like, that was a nice comment to sort of talk about this for a moment. I understand you were saying about his sort of like personal belief. All right, let's continue. The 20-year-old from Sanes was raised in a Christian home, but when what is this? But when his mother was injured 10 years ago, the family stopped going regularly to worship. The accident happened when he and his mother were skating together, like ice skating. Uh, I came down with a lot of shame because I was the one who brought her out on the ice, he tells the paper. A few years later, he attended a youth conference, and from the pulpit, the pastor said, "There's one among us in the hall who bears a lot of guilt." According to Shalon, the pastor knew nothing about the shame he was carrying, but after this incident, he sort of returned back into his personal faith. Now, you know, that's a nice story, but he essentially got, cold read by the pastor there. Is that what they call it when you do like when there's like a psychic on TV or something, and he's like, there's someone in the room who's experienced a loss and recently, right? And someone goes, "Oh, my granddad just died," right?
I can feel someone in spirit.
Yeah.
Someone is coming through.
But it's nice if that brought him joy, right? And deeper meaning. I'm not bagging that. I'm just saying, kind of it's not necessarily a flex to say that you got cold read, right?
Well, yeah, but I think that's the way it is for a lot of people who have spiritual experiences, and you can't really take their experiences away from them or just reduce it to being cold read, right? Because for most people, it's not going to be reading Aquinas or something, logical proofs. It will be having these kind of experiences of feeling seen or something, or feeling included, kind of on an emotional level. I think I lost your sound. Are you muted?
Oh yeah, I lost the sound. I muted myself. Sorry.
Yeah.
His history is not is perhaps unique, but like the 20-year-old, several young people are now looking towards Christianity. In 2015, there were a total of 2,071 entries. In 2024, the figure has increased to 3,788. So almost a doubling in 10 years. The increase is greatest among 20 and 30-year-olds, 4 times as many. 20-year-olds joined in 2024 as 2015. Women accounted for 58% of enrollments in this 2024 age group. I would thought that maybe, it's the guys because that's what's happening in the US. But actually, if you're a young Christian man, that's where you got to go. Apparently, that's where the women are.
Yeah, just don't hope for too much. Moderate your expectations, but do know that it's a good arena to meet young women, I think. But that's always been the case, though, hasn't it? I think,
Sure.
there's always been more women, at least in my lifetime, in church.
Yeah. The growing trend among young people is also confirmed by recent studies, such as the Institute for Churches, Religious Outlook and Research. It shows that several people aged 18 to 29 are now reading the Bible. The proportion of this age group that reads the Bible at least a few times a month has more than doubled since 2019. The increase is evenly distributed among the sexes. At the same time, several bookstores are telling that they record a growing demand for the Bible among young people. An accurate total number of Bible sales does not exist, but the Bible Company, which is the largest publisher, sold 57,562 Bibles last year. The company accounts for around 50% of the total sales. Therefore, as many as 100,000 Bibles may have been sold in 2024. This is far above a normal year of around 60,000.
It's understandable. I just if I wanted to get a Bible, I think I could just get one for free anywhere. Like I
Sure,
remember, I remember like being in the United States, you could just walk in public areas for long enough, and they'll just throw one at you or something. But some street preacher. I mean, yeah, if you're around the right people, I think they have so many exemplaries. But I assume this is like an identity thing, right? So they want to have their own copy that's a fresh,
Yeah.
and that's theirs, right?
Did the Oslo hand grenade incident have something to do with comm groups? I'm not sure what that is. Do you know?
I'm searching right now, but it doesn't
764
immediately.
If you're talking about like the are you calm as in communist? It's been linked to the Swedish Foxtrot
I'm looking at
crime network.
we got the 764. Is that like the satanic organization? This is This is a rabbit hole for me. Maybe this is something I should look into. But I've not seen this in media or anything.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the Order of the Nine Angles, right?
Okay.
I've heard about them before. It's just I've not seen them brought up in this context.
This looks like it's pointing towards crime syndicates, not.
I think it's like the Foxtrot group is what's been mentioned,
yeah.
right? These are like immigrant crime gangs who are fighting over drug turf, and they're just recruiting young kids because that's like a legal loophole and it's cheap. It's really high return on investment if you can get some young guy to run in with an Uzi and just and kill a rival essentially. Yeah. And you don't even pay for it. You just like maintain a Telegram group and a hotel room.
Yeah. We thought 2024 might be a special year because there was a new release, but we see that the trend is only continuing. So they're selling more Bibles. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to skip talking about the Bibles. Inger Furseth, professor of sociology at the University of Oslo, is sharing Ansha's theory of a right wing among young people in society. She has previously researched religion in the public. So the Christian People's Party are moving towards a far more conservative profile than they used to have. Trad wives are discussed. This is related to the American right wing, she says. Furseth points to the Christian conservative wave in the United States as a possible source for inspiration. This phenomenon has existed in the United States for a long time. Now it's also passing through here at home, probably because of social media. She explains that one has always had Christian conservative environments in Norway, but that today they are linked to more right-wing conservative environments, and this is new. There will be a marker of national identity and belonging via Christianity, she says. Yeah, there's been a bit of a shift, I think, thinking about like the locals. I have to say, sort of like but this is also sort of the weird thing is that you have the 20-year-old Christian dudes sort of just hanging out, not meeting girls. That's kind of what they do, right?
Let's talk about Charlie Kirk or something.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you have to meet girls, but at some point you have to meet girls, right? Shellen has had a close relationship with the Bible almost all of his life, but he has also been a young driver to try to get more people to read it. Previously, he bought several copies of the Bible and passed it on to friends and acquaintances, among other things, to a friend of him who's not a Christian himself. I don't know if he has the Bible yet, but he really appreciated it. Oh, if he has tossed it away, but he really appreciated it. He describes the young Christian community in his hometown as strong. It's not about which church you go to, but it's about what you believe in. Apparently, that was the end. I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a resurgence. I'm not sure we're going to look at, we're not looking at like a massive overturning here. A bit insulting to the young men of Norway to imply they're coming to faith in Christ because of mean old America, not because of any reason. Is there anything America's not guilty of? Well, I think this was more, you could say, it's America. And I would agree that she's like saying that this is the one cause. That's a bit reductionist, right? But I would almost put it more to, if you're going to point out one thing, it's social media. And if you're going to put it on another thing, it's just general uncertainty in the future. So yes, by nature, because it's social media, it becomes sort of like an American thing, because we're not getting a lot of Chinese media here, right? Well, at least that we know of. I've seen a lot less after the ban wave. Actually, I've seen a lot less of like, wow, look at thing in China. By the way,
feels good.
It feels very good. My timeline is healing a little bit. Now, as I told you, my feed, my For You page now, which I've started using more, is mostly just people fighting about JavaScript frameworks. So it feels very good to use my For You page. I don't have to filter out the slop anymore. All right. Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I think it's time to end the stream. We have one more article, but that can wait for next week, which is about how views on immigration differ between politicians and the people. Would you have guessed, Ludwigpath? The politicians are more positive to
I had no
to the
idea.
immigration than the people. Maybe we'll learn something, maybe we won't, but I think it'll be a fun read anyway. So, with that, I think we'll just wish you all a good night, a good day if you're in America, I believe, and a great weekend. We'll be back next week. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Javier. That means so much. I know you posted some stuff that I didn't get to, but it didn't feel right to stop reading. We have to stop the stream at some point. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.